My name is Neil Grace, author of Fresh Eyes Upon the World, Making Life a Spectacular Journey. And it is my immense pleasure to have Joseph Raine with me today on this Zoom broadcast. Joseph is a most intriguing individual from England, from London. He's written an incredible book, The Unfinished Book About Who We Are. He's traveled extensively. He's been on a very deep, soul-searching, self-reflective journey. He considers himself a citizen of the world. He believes in one religion, and that religion is humanity. He's been through a lot in his life, kind of an unconventional and somewhat unorthodox trajectory through the world, mostly trying to discover the meaning of and the purpose of his life and life itself. He played the guitar at 13, and he was very much saddened and shocked at the loss of his beloved brother when he was a young man. And that had a profound impact on him, a profound devastation. And he subsequently went on a very deep journey to delve into the mystery of life and the mystery of human life and of himself. And today is International Men's Day, and Joseph has been involved in many of the subjects relevant to men in their relationship with themselves, with each other, and women, and with the world. So thank you very much, Joseph, for being here. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, Neil.
Thank you. One of the things I wanted to ask you, and this is very spontaneous, free-flowing, is that, you know, we hear a lot about women and women's issues in the world, and not as much about men. And what do you think is the important, or one of the more important salient issues facing men in today's world? Because there's a lot of diversity and there's a lot of upheaval among men and between men, and I just want to know what you think we as men need to do to advance ourselves into a more harmonious in our experiences with life.
Fantastic question, Neil. You know, we've all been fighting for women's rights ever since we were born. We keep hearing about it. One of the main things I would say is I feel men sort of lost a big part of our identity because we had to come to terms with a lot of changes. Especially, you know, I believe the strongest energy that has driven a human being has been the sexual energy, and there has been a huge change there, whereby, you know, we went pretty much from taking what we want to, you know, in the old days, I mean, I guess, you know, or this is at least they teach us how it was. You'd go out, you'd, you know, find a mate, drag them home, make children, and then go off hunting and, you know, stuff like that. Now, all that has changed, you know. Now we have to ask for permission. Hunting has been replaced by providing. And just generally, overall, especially over the last 20, 30 years, watching our children grow up, they seem to be less and less, every generation seems to be less and less tough. I'm not sure how it is in the United States, but pretty much across Europe and many other places, the compulsory military service has been dissolved. And I see my kid, I mean, he's like 13 years old. They don't have a single worry, you know, they don't have to fight for anything. We just seem to take too much care of our children somehow, almost. And I don't quite know what the future man will look like, and if they're going to be even more lost than what I see, like, you know, in the 25, 30-year-olds today. Maybe that's enough for an opening.
Well, do you think, Joseph, do you think being lost is really a transitional journey, and that we're just trying to reframe and kind of reinvent who we are, and that men are, like you said, the traditional role is being totally dissolved and it's being replaced by something we don't quite know what it is, but it might be for the better. But I detect from what you said that that being lost is making us vulnerable and is a little disturbing.
Well, look, there's always a transition, and as much as it's something is transitional and disturbing, I like to see everything as an opportunity, because I believe you have two choices in life. One is to decline, the other is to grow. I choose growth.
Mm.
And in my 37 year of research, I started very early, actually, at the age of 15, because I had this crazy illness where there was basically no cure to it. And the doctors basically sent me to the library, and that's how I started at age 15, reading about the power of the mind, realizing it wasn't just about the power of the mind. We like to see ourselves as body and mind, but there is so much more to us. I favor and see one of our weakest links being emotional intelligence, and this is the lack of emotional intelligence I see, not just in men but also in women, right across the board, because nobody teaches that. You have emotional problems. The solution is psychiatrists and pharmaceutical drugs. No one ever tells us that we could actually go into prevention. All we have is treatments currently. And so, yeah, I see these challenges as an opportunity. And one of the biggest lessons I've learned on my discovery actually has to do with the question of free will, one of the fundamental questions, which, again, I'm not going to go too much into it, but I just think everybody's getting it wrong, at least all the hundreds of seminars I've been to. We can't always influence what happens in the world, but we can influence how we respond to what happens in the world. And this would be my message, not just to men, but also to women, that we need to start paying attention how we're responding to what is happening in the world.
That's a great concept, because I agree completely. Our response is basically, it's our sovereign right to interact with the world, and no one can tell us how to respond. It's all about us, and that freedom is the empowerment that gives us an identity and gives us a solidity of a personality, and that response can actually help change things, even if it's a very small change. It helps change the world because we're responding in a way that's in concert with what we want and how we want to respond. But we have to first, like you said, we have to be emotionally intelligent, and we have to be in touch with our emotions, and we have to kind of manage them successfully. This question also engenders another question that I have is, a lot of men don't like to feel, or don't want to experience being vulnerable. And we have strong egos. We are very strong personalities at times. We want to be righteous. We want to be right. And sometimes we can't learn, or we don't want to learn how to be very yielding or vulnerable and still maintain our identities and our freedom and still be a strong personality. So my question is, what can we as men do to empower ourselves and yet be vulnerable and emotionally aware and sensitive at the same time?
Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I dug pretty deep into this these subjects. So I hope whatever I say it will make sense, because I'm running out of people to talk to.
Well, no, it makes sense. We'll share freely and openly. No, this is great.
Yeah. Look, I mean, a whole humanity has been a search for knowledge, but there's a big difference. We are now in the third stage of the evolution of consciousness, I call it. The first stage was becoming aware. The second stage was becoming aware of being aware, and now we are actually searching for meaning and our purpose. And what I'm arguing is that just knowing things is not enough. I mean, after all, look, machines will soon know more than we do. Knowledge, in a way, is information. One particular quality that humans have is that we can understand. Machines can know, but only intelligent, self-aware beings can truly understand why actually we do something. You know, what's the purpose and what's the meaning? And I've gone, as I said, over these 37 years, I really dug deep into it. And this is what I actually write about, the difference between knowledge and actual genuine understanding. And I believe if we just started, I mean, we're desperate to need to readjust our educational system, because the stuff we teach is still pretty much based on intellect. And if you ask a lot of people, leading educators, I'm not going to name any names, but you know, they will tell you that the best indicator of long-term success is intellect. And it's very, very simple to disprove that. I would say that we need to move from intellect, include emotional intelligence, and then sort of bring our body, emotions, and mind together to start investigating something that is not the term I have invented, but it's been around for a while, which we call, let's call it spiritual intelligence, because you know, we are more and more realizing we are metaphysical beings, and within that comes, you know, the whole meaning and purpose. Because unless I think we really start getting into this, what's the point of the whole thing anyway? We're never gonna find, you know, most people look for happy. I mean, a lot of people ask me, like, you know, how can I be happy? Why am I not happy? And there are like very simple answers, but you have to have this genuine understanding behind you to actually understand what we're talking about. You know, the very simple answer is, you know, we have been brought up to search for happiness in pleasure, but pleasure is just temporary, you know. And where there is pleasure, there is bound to be pain. So then, you know, people get confused. How come there is so much pain? Well, you know, if you want pleasure, you're going to have pain. But if we start looking for now I lost myself, like, yeah, basically we need to shift from pleasure, from searching for pleasure, towards searching for meaning. I'll give maybe a better thing if I give an example. For example, take parenting. You know, parenting brings us a lot of pleasure, but it also brings us a lot of pain. But the meaning of being a parent is eternal. If you see where I'm sort of coming from.
Yes. Well, I really like the whole concept that you elaborated, getting out of the knowledge and the understanding of just information and the intellect, and kind of synthesizing it with the spirit, the heart, the intuition, the metaphysical, all these things. So what you're doing is you're trying to advocate for a composite, a kind of a potpourri, a completion, a whole range of the elements of what it is to be human, and let that become the kind of tapestry that we weave, that has all the different threads of our lives, so that we can operate much more effectively and much more lovingly and holistically.
Fantastically. You have a beautiful way of putting this into words.
And I think that what you're saying about the stages of our evolution is absolutely remarkable, because we are at a pivotal place in our existence and our evolution, where we're looking for meaning and purpose, like you said.
Yes.
And
yes.
That, especially as men, I think women are more, and again, this is a generalization, of course, there are many exceptions to this, but women are much more earthy. They seem to be more comfortable being who they are.
Yes, intuitively.
Pardon me?
Intuitively, they seem to, like, you know, be drawn towards more a wider. They seem to see the world in a much wider spectrum than we do. We seem to be much more focused, and they seem to have this wider vision, which gives
they're
them.
Very organic. I think women are organic. Yeah. They're part of the garden. They're helping to cultivate the garden of life with beauty and sensitivity and art and creativity. You know, another thing, I want to just jump into another subject, and this is very controversial, but I think it's extremely germane and for us to delve into. Men tend, if you look at the history of humanity, men tend to be the more volatile, violent, warmongering gender than women. How can men, and men have can be very temperamental and can be very explosive and inflammatory. We have very strong egos, and women do too. How can we curtail some of that tendency toward violence as men?
Yeah.
With each other, even when we play sports, things get out of hand. I watch professional sports, basketball, and the
Yes.
all the time. I mean, it amazes me, and I also watch in the United States, the professional women's basketball, and I notice there is a significant difference. The women are very competitive and play well,
Yes.
professional,
Yes.
but they don't fight each other. It's rare.
Yes.
There's 20 times as many physical altercations with men as with women. So my question to you, and I think it's an important question I don't know if it can be answered, how do we men learn to be vibrant and vivacious and out there and competitive and exuberant and expressive and emotional,
Yes.
and
Yes.
not succumb to violence?
Beautiful. I mean, you can, you can keep me talking about this forever. I'm not going to try and sound boring because there's a very, very simple answer. Again, I'm going to come back down to, emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? Is the capacity to handle our emotions and to communicate with other people compassionately, empathetically, and take something like, for example, jealousy. Yeah, we cannot. Sometimes you suddenly find yourself, oh my God, I'm jealous of this guy, that person. The brain is telling you, don't be jealous, but your emotion, you just feel your jealousy. And I can only talk for myself. What has really worked for me, and that's again is something I learned through that illness, because I really had to go within. It was so painful, my illness, that at every second of my life, I had to be honest to myself what I am experiencing. So I was going through all these experiences. I was embarrassed, then I was feeling jealous, then I was excited. And every emotion was bringing out, perpetrating pain in my body. So I had to deal with every emotion. And I started breaking them down. I said, well, what is jealousy? Well, it's basically me being upset because, somebody is having the pleasure of something that I would want. And I found that just by starting to understand, rather than just, people say, oh, he's jealous, it's normal. You watch politicians these days. I saw something recently on the television interview. They were saying, oh, you guys are getting together in Brussels, in the European Union, and you're going to talk about this and this. And he says, yeah, we all go there. It all starts really well. And then the ego hits in. And he said, oh, yeah, I understand. And suddenly I'm watching this interviewer. He's totally, sympathetic with this politician. Oh, totally, I understand. Of course, you guys can't agree on anything because ego hits in. And I'm thinking, my God, what he just accepts that the ego hits in. So I don't know, half of Europe has to put up with this new law because they couldn't decide something. It's when you start looking at it like that, you think, nobody checks if our presidents are emotionally stable. You have to have a political career, you have to have certain experience, you have to have the right connections. Nobody checks for emotional stability, and it all comes down when emotions hit in. The intellect takes a back seat. That's it. We see it all the time, but we don't pay attention to it. And when you say what men could do, also what women could do, it's just simply by starting to understand who we truly are. It all starts from there. And then you said to yourself, you know what? Okay, I'm feeling jealous, but I understand I'm feeling jealous. And you know what? I'm a response-able being, which means I don't have to respond in a way that jealous people respond. It's literally as simple, and it obviously takes practice. And there are many great teachers out there. I've been a student of Anthony Robbins for many, many years since the beginning, when he wrote Ultimate Power. And he talks about it as well. And I started practicing, and through practice, it's amazing how you can change your responses.
Well, that's very true. I think you hit the quintessential truth. and that is emotional stability, maintaining, your emotions, handling your emotions. And like you said, it takes practice, Joseph, but I think it's extremely difficult for men to implement that because emotions are so pervasive. They
Yes.
just take over. They seize our bodies, and they seize our chemistry and our brain waves. And even though we say, well, I don't want to be jealous, it's not the higher consciousness of this, it's really in the moment, it's really hard to apply that. And I think the only solution, other than, like you said, discipline and practice over time, I think you really have to propel yourself into almost an altered state and say, I will take charge of my life. I will not be a victim to my emotions, even though they're real.
Yes.
It's not denying
Yes.
them, it's not repressing or suppressing them. It's saying, you almost have to force yourself and demand that you maintain a level of intelligence in that upheaval, in that moment of explosion, so you don't inflame it and escalate it. And it's almost like going into a boxing ring. Instead of fighting, I refuse to fight. I am going now to ask the person, let's reconcile. I mean, it's going to take tremendous courage and a tremendous conviction and willpower to do that.
Yes, and I find that what you see, we are different. Some people are more visual. Some people are, are more audio. Some people are more like kinetic. They like to feel things. For me, since I was a kid, what I wanted to do is to understand things. So I know the stuff I'm talking about applies to me and applies to people who are similar to me, and everyone will have to go within and find out what gets them going. To me, for example, I mean, I like to hang out, with beautiful women, like we do. And, so many times, you go for a drink and you come back and somebody's chatting to your girl, and you come back and say, oh, here's my boyfriend. And think, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm saying, no, don't be sorry. Come on, she's beautiful. It's natural. You go up and you talk to a beautiful girl if she's standing there by herself. And they're like, aren't you jealous? And I'm saying, of course, everybody's jealous, but I understand this is what nature does. This is what we were designed. With me, it's all about understanding. And we don't have enough time here. I've had some amazing, amazing situations. Because I understand them, I was able not to react. I was able to stay calm and to basically say, look, I understand this is the way it is. Yes, but as you say, it takes a lot of conviction, courage. Neil, I just think these days, one of the biggest problems we are facing is that, you ask anybody who they are, they'll tell you their name, they'll tell you where they come from, where they've been born, they name the parents, what they do, what they own. But, they'll tell you so much information, but inevitably, people will not tell you who they truly are.
That's true, Joseph. That is really true. And I think that's the quest and that's the journey we're all on. And it's a wild, circuitous journey, and it's taking us to unexplored and unexpected places. I want to just comment quickly on a comment you just made about women and jealousy and being possessive. I think as men in this new paradigm that we're experiencing, that we want to also really help be supportive of women and see the beauty within them, the beauty, the pulchritude, the physical beauty, but also make sure that we see the beauty and the qualities they possess that can be even much more engaging and much more profound than just the fleeting physical beauty, because we're all aging, in 40 years, 50 years, and 100 years, we'll all be dead. So it's very tempting and very beautiful, seductive to be lured by physical beauty, but we want to see the beauty in women. I think the more we can see their intrinsic qualities, the more as men we will be empowered and enriched and have a much more supportive and inclusive dynamic relationship with women, because there seems to be from, at least from my perspective, a tremendous division or divide
Yes.
between men and women. And we want to be able to bridge that gap, that chasm, by
Right.
honoring who they are and cherishing them and not coming forth, even though you say it's nature, and I agree with you. I admit it too. I can
Yes.
be lured and by those alluring qualities, but I have to rise above them and transcend them with seeing the beauty inside these women. And that
Yes.
beauty is also inside me.
But exactly. I mean, I try to simplify everything, Neil. These are very, very deep and wide subjects. I like to simplify. I always ask, well, who is looking? Who is looking to see the beauty? I am. So if I am looking to see the beauty in a woman, really, I am seeking for the beauty within. You know, it's the whole reality. The whole reality exists because of relationships. So everything is a relationship. And so, in fact, everything we do, we are inevitably searching for ourselves, you know.
Absolutely. You know, I want to ask this question because I think it's very important, and I really appreciate the torch of awakening that you hold up to the mystery of life, because you're on a great path, and I wish everybody were on that path because it is such a rewarding and stimulating uh, path, even though it can be very challenging. My question is that I notice that a lot of people communicate, especially men with each other. They talk about sports, they talk about superficial things. How can we communicate with each other more authentically, more deeply, more from the heart, more honestly? I mean, the communication seems, I mean, and with women too, but I'm focusing because it's Men's Day today. How can we have better communication with each other where we can really connect as men, whether it's
Yes,
strangers, even friends or good friends or new friends?
yes. I'm going to give a very quick answer, and then I'll try and expand on it. Again, who is trying to communicate? You know, it's the self. Whatever question you ask, you inevitably come to who is asking. You know, who am I? And I would say just again a huge subject. I mean, I wrote 4 books about it, so we're never gonna, you know. But it's I would just point perhaps like one angle. You know, if reality comes through change. You know, a lot of people talk about a lot of things. We've mentioned a lot of big words in this talk: freedom, responsibility, reality. Most people you ask, they will not be able to give you the right answer. What is freedom? What is responsibility? What is reality? So very quickly, reality happens because of change. So we live in a world of movement. If we lived in a static world, there would be no reality. There would be just nothing. And we experience this reality through establishing a relationship. So now I would say, if you want to have your question, a deeper relationship, a deeper conversation, see more beauty, you simply need to raise the quality of your relationship. And to raise the quality of your relationship, immediately there are things like very powerful things like collaboration. Because if you're going to collaborate, you're going to grow and you're going to contribute to something. The other thing is growth. Again, you know, you can choose between growth or decline. Do you want your relationship to decline or do you want it to grow? Really, another powerful. Not everybody's talking about love. There's something I feel is more powerful, and that is gratitude. Because with gratitude, you combine love with appreciation. So just maybe try these 3 things to improve your relationship. That is gratitude, contribution, and what else did I say? Oh, growth,
Growth.
personal growth. Yes.
I agree with you, Joseph. From
I know
everything,
this, when I talk, these things maybe sound very boring because I listen to fantastic talkers and
and
they know how to do this.
they're very tantalizing, very stimulating. If I
Yes.
were to distill all of the thoughts that you just shared, everything since the moment we started 30 minutes ago, because we have to come bring it to a closure now,
Yes.
you really are a champion of something that I think is not only vital, but supersedes everything else in the world. And that is know yourself. Go
Yes.
deeper and deeper, know yourself. And by doing this, all these other things will eventually, inevitably emerge. gratitude and love and beauty and self-understanding and purpose, your mission in life. So this has been very, very engaging. I really appreciate it, Joseph. I appreciate your candor and your passion. You're an
Thank you.
incredible human being, and I hope your books do extremely well, and they will. And I thank you immensely for this interview, and you have a beautiful evening.
Thank you so much, Neil. It's been a true pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.